The Louis Vuitton Graceful bag is over $2,000. So today I'm going to show you how to make it on a budget. This is a free pattern. I give you all of the measurements in the video and they're also listed down below. So let's see how this is made. So if you're new here, I am Chris with Simply Classic. I'm a pattern designer and bag maker. One of my favorite things to do are pattern hacks and looking at designer bags to see exactly how they're made. This particular bag was requested by a couple of people, and we encourage you to join the Simply Classic bag making community to check out different ideas, inspiration, hacks, and to make suggestions on some patterns and designer bags that maybe we could do in the future. So the Graceful is a very lightweight bag. It was introduced in 2017 by Louis Vuitton. It sounds like they are discontinuing the bag. And there's still some available in stores, but before long it is going to be discontinued. So we want to certainly make sure we know how to make this bag so that we can do it on our own, on a budget for a fraction of the price. So this bag comes in 3 different sizes, a small, medium, and large. The medium is a really good size, and that's about what we're going to make today. The final measurements on our bag are 12 inches wide by 11 inches tall. And it's about 6 inches deep, so it's a good size bag. So let's take a little bit closer look at the inspiration bag. So here we have a photo of the Louis Vuitton bag. A couple things to look at is it's a very simple bag. There's not a lot of pockets. Sometimes the best designs are the simplest ones. You can see the lining in this photo here goes all the way up to the top of the bag. There's no upper lining. And the reason why is because the sides of the bag are cinched in with some spring gate O-rings, and we need that flexibility in the bag. So we're going to do exactly that in our version, and this is the version we're going to be making today. Now this is a lightweight snake that we have. Snake is all over the place on the spring runway. So if you maybe have been a little opposed to snake, I want you to reconsider it. It's really beautiful. It's got a lot of colors in it, and it is everywhere. So make sure you check out our snake prints that we have available. This one is considered lightweight snake in brown and navy. I also added an extra little tab here to put my bag tag on. Just like I mentioned, there are no pockets or anything on the outside. It's really a very simple bag. You can make your strap as long or short as you want. I decided to go with kind of a tricolor. You can see here that the bag itself has got a lot of color in it, a lot of cream in it, which is great for spring. I have a navy place here for my tag, a little extra piece, and then my handle is in a camel color. On the inside, which is hard to see inside, but on the inside we do have a slip pocket, actually 2 slip pockets, and we also have a zipper pocket and a key fob. The lining I used is called khaki dots. It is tiny dots. It is a tilde fabric, and we have all of these things linked below for you to order and make your own graceful Louis Vuitton tote. So we're going to go over all of the pattern piece measurements, and then we're going to get started. We're going to start out by going over pattern pieces, and there is not very many pattern pieces to this bag. So the first thing we have here is a handle, and the handle is cut 2 inches wide by anywhere between 36 and 40 inches long. It's up to you. You can decide how long you want your handle. The fabric I'm using is our faux leather in the color camel. And we're going to do a continuous strap so that we don't have any raw edges. Now I cut a small piece of leather in navy, and I just took 2 pieces, glued them together, but left about a 1/2 inch at the top where it is raw edge. This is going to get put in the top of the bag and folded over, just like the inspiration bag, and I put my bag tag on that. You can cut whatever shape you'd like. If you have a bag tag, stick it on there. Follow kind of the same principles. However you'd like to do this, or just put it right directly on the bag. We have our lightweight snake in the color brown and blue. Beautiful color. Snake is all the rage for spring. If you have not tried our snake skin yet, it is amazing. This is also a fantastic material for this bag because it is lightweight. You want something that's going to be slouchy, it makes a difference. The size of this pattern piece is 18.5 inches wide by 14.75 inches long, and the little squares that you cut out of the bottom are 3 by 3. On the back, you do want to stabilize this with some kind of stabilizer. The stabilizer is 17.5 wide by 13.75 inches long. It's going to go all the way to the bottom. You're going to put a second piece of stabilizer in this section here. That is 7.75 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall, and I just adhered it right on top of the existing stabilizer. While it was warm, I went ahead and folded that in just like this. That's essentially going to be how our bag sits, and it's going to give us a nice crisp edge on the bottom. We also have lining pieces. The lining pieces are cut exactly the same as the front and the back, 18.5 inches wide by 14.75 inches tall with 3-inch cutouts. Now, when it comes to pockets, how they're laid out, all of this is personal preference. You can see here I already prepared my pockets. This pocket was 12 by 12, folded it in half and put my little accent on top. You've seen me do that many times before. I separated it into 3 separate pockets so that I could have a pen, and then I would also have pockets for phones or whatever else I might need. I have my key fob here that I've also put on. On the second lining piece, I have a zipper pocket and then a second slip pocket. My second slip pocket is 12 by 8. This zipper pocket overlay is about 9 to 9.5 inches, and then of course the pocket pieces are slightly larger. You're going to install that the way you typically install any kind of zipper pocket. Your favorite method is fine. Other than that, we are going to need 8 grommets. We have these fantastic pressing grommets, and they are super easy to install. We will install those together. You're also going to need a magnetic snap. I'm going to put purse feet on this bag because I feel like the purse feet are going to definitely be a good thing as big as the bag is. And then you're going to need a couple of these spring gate O-rings. We carry all of these products in the Simply Classic store. We have them all linked below. Also, the lining I used here is called Tiny Dots Khaki. It's a tilde lining, and we also have that on the site. Check out the links below. We're going to go ahead and start on the construction of the bag. We're going to be using my Burnett 08 machine to construct this bag. I'm going to be using a Tex 45 thread with a 9014 leather needle. All right, let's get started. As I mentioned in the intro, there is a magnetic snap that closes this bag. Since we don't have an upper lining because the lining goes all the way to the top of the bag, we need to go ahead and put a little bit of stabilization here. Otherwise, the magnetic snap might not be super stable on this lining. All of the lining is interfaced with a woven interfacing, but a lot of times that's not quite enough. I'm going to go ahead and use a couple pieces of Decoville Light, and I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches and centered, and that's where I'm going to be putting my magnetic snap. So I'm going to measure that first, go ahead and mark it so that I can put my stabilizer piece on there. That's going to be where the snap is installed. So I'll put the stabilizer piece here, and then I'll go ahead and install my magnetic snap on both sides of the lining. Okay, we'll put that on and then go ahead and install the magnetic snap. With the magnetic snap now installed, I'm going to go ahead and put these lining pieces right sides together. We're going to wonder clip the sides. And then we're going to stitch the sides. You're going to leave the bottom open, and we're going to finish up the bottom and box the corners later on after we turn the bag. You want to start out at a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top, And you're going to slowly increase your seam allowance until you are anywhere between 5/8 and 3/4 here at the bottom. That's just going to ensure we have a nice snug lining. With our lining sewn in, we're going to go ahead and just cut back where our key fob comes into the lining. We just don't want that extra bulk in the seam allowance. And then you can go ahead and either press or just finger press these seams open, or you can cut them back, whichever you prefer. I'm just going to do a little bit of a finger press. And then we're going to set the lining aside and we're going to go ahead and construct the front of the bag. Okay, so to construct the front of the bag, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put my bag tag on. Now, as I mentioned before, this is 2 pieces of leather that I put my tag on and then I glued them together, left about a 1/2 inch extra on the front piece, so that way I didn't have too much bulk in my seam. I'm just going to baste that here to the top. I'm going to use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that that's basted on, we're going to turn this and put right sides together. We want to stitch the bottom first. I am going to put a couple on the side just to kind of hold everything in place, but stitch the bottom using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now that that's stitched, we are going to open this bag up and top stitch the seam open. So I'm just going to finger press that open, and then from the right side, we're going to stitch down both sides next to the seam. Now that that seam is top stitched, we want to install our purse feet. I'm going to put 6 purse feet on this bag because it is a large bag and I feel like it will definitely benefit from the 6 feet. To determine the placement of the feet, we're going to line our ruler up with our heavy interfacing, meaning the second piece of interfacing we adhere here, or a piece of heavy stabilizer. I'll line it up right along there, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to draw a line 1 inch from the side of the stabilizer here on the end. Same thing on the other end. And then I'm going to find the center. Mark the center at the top and on the bottom. Draw a line. The placement of the feet are going to be right at each one of these 6 points. So depending on what kind of purse feet you have, you're going to go ahead and either cut slits or punch holes and go ahead and install your purse feet. With my purse feet now installed, I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back where the screws are. Now I did put a little bit of Loctite thread locker on the screws to make sure that they didn't come apart. If you have screw back purse feet, I suggest you do the same just to ensure that you don't have any problems with the purse feet coming unscrewed. There are times, and this is going to be one of those times, where I like to add a little bit of cushion to the bottom of the bag. This is a really lightweight snake, and the stabilizer I have is not as maybe thick as I would like. So I cut a piece of foam, and I'm going to add the piece of foam to the bottom and stitch around. Now, once I add my double-sided tape to the bottom where the screws are, I'm just going to peel the backing off the tape and place the foam right on top. Now, if you want to avoid stitching, you could certainly do that, but I think the stitching is just going to add a little bit to it, and it's going to look nice. The size of this piece of foam is 6.5 inches tall, and it is 11.5, I believe, inches wide. Let's double check that. Yep, 11.5 wide by 6.5 tall. So I'm just going to turn this over, and I can feel where the foam is. I'm just going to top stitch the foam on all the way around. Look at how nice that is. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and clip my sides together. And we're now going to stitch the side seams using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once the side seams are stitched, you want to open up these side seams. And I suggest you use some 1/2 inch double-sided tape to keep the sides open. So I'm just going to take some double-sided tape, place it right along the edge of the seam, all the way down. And go ahead and open up that seam. I'm going to repeat that for the other side here and also the other seam allowance. Once the side seams are opened up, you're going to go ahead and box the corners. So to box the corners, you're just going to squeeze these together. Make sure that your bottom seam is lined up with your side seam and clip it in place. We're going to repeat on the other corner. And then we're going to stitch these in place using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to do a second line of stitching right beside that first one. And then we're going to repeat on the other side. Once those seams are stitched, I'm going to just cut the seam allowance back to about 1/4 inch, or maybe even 1/8, just to get it out of the way. And now you can go ahead and turn the bag. Once the bag is turned, we're going to go ahead and place the lining and the bag right sides together. So I'm just going to open up this lining, place it over, the bag and line up the seams first. Once the seams are lined up, I will go ahead and clip the rest of the bag. We're now going to stitch around the top of the bag using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to stitch from this inside edge because I do not want to stitch on top of my stabilizer. I'm going to stitch right next to it, right, let's say about a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch away. I want to give the bag enough space to turn. Now that the top of the bag is stitched all the way around, we're going to simply pull the bag out, away from the lining. And then we are going to fold the bag along the top edge and push the lining into the inside of the bag. If you have a bag tag like this, you're going to fold this forward. And then you're going to top stitch right over it. Trying to make sure that my lining is pushed the seam is pushed all the way out, but that the lining is just slightly to the back. I don't want my lining peeking out if I can help it. Okay, once that is clipped all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. Now that the bag is top stitched all the way around, I'm going to open up the zipper pocket and pull the lining of the pocket out. From there, I'm going to reach in and grab the bottom of the lining and pull that out of the pocket. I'm going to line up the bottom and wonder clip in place. And we're going to stitch this bottom using a generous 1/2 inch seam allowance. Cut this seam allowance back to anywhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. And then you want to go ahead and box your lining corners. So take the corner, pull it out, make sure that the side and the bottom seams match up. We'll wonder clip those in place. And then we will stitch these using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and trim down to anywhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we will push the lining back into the bag. Make sure everything looks super nice in there, which it does. And then we're going to pull the pocket lining out and fold it under about a 1/2 inch. And wonder clip those in place. You're going to use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to go ahead and close this up. Once that's stitched, go ahead and push the pocket back into the bag. And at this point, we have a nice, great big tote bag. So we need to go ahead and now turn this into the Graceful hobo like we see in the photos. So we need to install some grommets. And even though this is a boxed corner bag, we have an obvious side here. And you can kind of come up from the corner and just kind of pinch that to see where that side is. What's going to happen are these sides are going to come in like this on both sides to get that cinched look. So we need to mark for grommets. So on the front of the bag, go ahead and try to kind of define where your sides are. And then we're going to take a grommet and a silver marking pen and make some marks. So once you define where your side is, from the top of your bag, you're going to come down 1 inch and you're going to come over 1 inch. So down and over. This is a 1 inch ruler. So I'm going to put the center of my grommet right at the corner of where this ruler is. So I'm just going to make a little dot here. Place the grommet. Go ahead and draw in circle. And that is where the grommet's going to go. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. 1 inch and 1 inch. Put a dot. Center it where the grommet. Draw a circle. And that's where another grommet is going to go. We're going to repeat on the back. And then one last one here. Okay, so now we know where our front and back grommets are going to go. To punch the hole, we're going to use a 1/2 inch hole punch. We do have these available on the website and we have it linked below. You also want a piece of granite or marble or some hard surface as well as a cutting board. You're going to go ahead and place the cutting board inside the bag. Place the hole punch on the circle you drew, and then with a mallet, go ahead and hit it. And then that will punch through. I'm going to go to the second, and we're going to repeat. To set the grommets, you want to take the part of the grommet that has the little raised area. That's going to be the front. And then you're just going to place the back part on top. That little raised part will fit right inside where the back part is. You're going to, with a mallet, just go ahead and hit the back side of the grommet and it will set. Okay, and then now that's set. So I'm going to repeat that with the rest of these 4 grommets that we've already cut. So now that we have 4 of the grommets in, we need to go ahead and get the last 4 in. Now again, the way this is going to work, the sides are going to fold in and the spring gate O-ring is going to go through all of the grommets here on the side. So the best way to do this, you can see as this side folds in, see how it kind of goes into the bag a little bit? That's okay. That's just the way the fabric is going to work. That's just how it's going to happen. So the reason why we don't want to do these spring gate O-rings on the side until we punch the front and back first is because as we fold this fabric does shift. So the best way to handle this is to go ahead and clip this in place. And then mark through the grommet on the front and on the back where the side grommet is going to go. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. And what I'm trying to do is to match up where the front and the back grommets are so that I'm going to have no problem getting those side grommets in. You don't want to put the side grommets on the side seam. You want to make sure that seam is in far enough so that as you cut the holes out, you're not getting or interfering with your seam at all. So once I can see those are pretty much lined up, I'm going to just put a wonder clip. And then with a silver marking pen, I'm going to mark the placement of those grommets. Okay, so now I can see where those are marked. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process by punching the holes and placing the grommets on all of these 4 positions. 2 here and 2 here. Now that all the grommets are in, we're going to go ahead and put our spring gate O-rings on. So the easiest way to do that is going to be to go ahead and put it through the first one, let it close, put it through the second one, let it close. Same thing with the third, and then do the fourth. And then you have your okay, so this is what we have. We need to go ahead and now do our handle and connect our handle to our spring gate O-rings. And originally I was going to attach the handle to the O-rings, but instead I think what I'm going to do is use some swivel clasps. So you are going to need a couple of swivel clasps for this. So I have my handle piece and I put double-sided tape down the center, drew a line. I am going to go ahead and take both of my swivel clasps, they are 1-inch swivel clasps, and I'm going to slide them onto this piece. So I'm just going to kind of fold this in half and slide them both on. Now with right sides together, I'm going to stitch these short edges together. And I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once I have the seam stitched, I'm going to open up the seam allowance. And then from here, I'm going to top stitch on both sides of the seam. Once that's top stitched, I'm going to go ahead and remove the paper. And we're going to fold the edges to the center. And when we fold the edges to the center, we're folding it all the way to the center line. So we're going to want these two edges to match. Usually when we do handles, we want to leave a space, but in this instance, because of the way we're doing the handle, we want them to match here in the center. Once you have that completed, go ahead and separate your soil clasps so that the seam is about in the middle. And then wonder clip everything together. Now, you can make this handle as long or as short as you want. You certainly do not have to make it as short as what I'm making it. You can make it much longer than that. You can also make an adjustable strap. It's just whatever you prefer here. Now I'm going to draw a line about 1 inch away from each swivel clasp because that's where I want to turn and start going in the other direction. I will end up putting a rivet at the end as well. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch. And from here, 1 inch, and actually I'm going to make this the wrong side, so as I put it on the bag, I'm going to put it on this way, so I'm going to mark on this side. 1 inch and 1 inch. So I'm just going to go ahead, stitch across, down, over, across, and back up. And I do want to make sure that these two edges align as best as possible. as I mentioned, the last thing I'm going to do is mark for a rivet on each side. I'm going to punch holes and go ahead and install rivets. So here's our completed bag. Now, the bag is probably not quite as slouchy as the original inspiration bag. I use stabilizer all the way to the top of the bag. If you want the bag to be a little more slouchy, use less stabilizer. It's totally up to you. The bag is super simple. Of course, you can see here, there's no pockets on the front, there's no pockets on the back. It is just a really nice size tote bag. Inside, of course, we have a magnetic snap, and then we have our zipper pocket and our slip pockets on the inside. If you would like to make the sides a little less scrunched up, you can certainly use a larger spring gate O-ring here, or you can also, of course, make your handle much larger if you would like to do that. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Until next time, everybody, happy sewing.